would you welcome Jimmy Tingle?
A boy's born in hot time, Mississippi, surrounded by four walls that ain't so pretty.
Thank
His
you.
parents give him love.
Hello, delegates. It's great to be here today in Worcester. My name is Jimmy Tingle. That is my real name. And many of you know me as an entertainer. But I want to assure you here today that this campaign is 100% serious. I've been a Democratic activist for many years, and it's great to see so many familiar faces here today. I grew up in Cambridge, Massachusetts. My father bought our home with the GI Bill in the 1950s. My mother is 90 years old, she still lives there. Growing up, my father owned and drove taxi cabs. Our family car was a cab. We went everywhere in a big yellow taxi cab. One time, my father, I kid you not, he took us hunting in a cab. I thought we were going to the White Mountains. He brought us to Woburn. I grew up Catholic. I was an altar boy. I went to Cambridge Public Schools, UMass Dartmouth, and recently went back to school to get a master's degree at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. And the great thing about going back to school in your 50s, you get the student ID and the senior discount. My brother Gary and sister Ruthie are both public school teachers. My brother Bobby is a contractor and union carpenter for 40 years. And I am a proud union member of SAG-AFTRA. I've been a political humorist for over 30 years and commentator on 60 Minutes 2 and MSNBC. And I'm running for lieutenant governor to communicate the message of the Democratic Party, not only to the people who agree with us here today, but as importantly to the people that we've lost. And sadly, to the people who've been left behind. And the message of the Democratic Party is that government matters. That government can change people's lives, and at times, government can actually save people's lives. During the 1980s, I lost 3 friends to alcohol and drugs, and I personally was going downhill because of those substances in a big way. And I started calling places for help. Detoxes, rehabs, treatment centers, hospitals, and I would get the same answers. There's no beds. There's no room. There's long lines. You don't have insurance. Call back next week. I called the Cambridge City Hospital, and I said to the man who answered the phone, I really need help. Without missing a beat, this man said, you called the right place. I went into that hospital. I stayed 7 days through Christmas 1987. I got out. I moved to New York City. I focused on stand-up comedy and recovery. A year later, to the week, I went on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. The other guest that night was Bob Hope. I believe in God, and I believe in the power of government to change people's lives. Everything I have in my life, everything, my wife, my son, my education, my career, my relationship with people like yourselves, everything is directly attributable to that man's response when I reached out for help during the winter of 1987. And I am running for lieutenant governor at the height of this opioid crisis in this city, this state, and this country, in large measure to hopefully ensure that when anybody in the state of Massachusetts picks up the phone and reaches out for help, the answer on the other end always will be, you called the right place. My political philosophy is based on the spiritual principles of all the world's major religions and embodied in the teachings of Martin Luther King. As Democrats, we already know what to do. Feed the hungry. Not only those who hunger for food, but those who hunger for opportunity. Those who hunger to fulfill the potential. Those who hunger for education without incurring tens of thousands of dollars and crushing student debt. Those who hunger for the American dream. House the homeless. Not only those walking the streets looking for shelter on a nightly basis, including many of our veterans, sadly, but for those men and women who work all day, every day, and are simply looking for a safe, affordable place to live and raise a family. Heal the sick, where health care is a human right. Be it physical illness or mental illness, and where a public option giving rise to a single-payer system would truly mean health care for all. Welcome the stranger by passing the Safe Communities Act with the larger goal of immigration reform, so Massachusetts and America can continue to bring people into this great country rather than push people out. This is the message of the Democratic Party. Feed the hungry, house the homeless, heal the sick, welcome the stranger, and I would add, fix the tea. If John F. Kennedy could inspire a generation to go to the moon, we can get a high-speed train to go to Springfield. We can get commuter rails to Fall River in New Bedford, Haverhill and Hyannis. And we can get a train to connect North Station to South Station. We can do these things. And people say, how are you going to pay for this? If we can pass the Fair Share Amendment, also known as the Millionaire's Tax, that would add almost $2 billion to help fund education and transportation. And the great news is, many millionaires actually support the Millionaire's Tax. Because they know they need an educated workforce and dependable transportation to help their businesses continue to grow. By raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, we can put more money in the pockets of more people, improving their standards of living and growing their local economies because they spend every single dollar of that money in their neighborhoods. And if we can continue with criminal justice reform, it'll save us millions of dollars in the wrong run and improve thousands of lives. Sheriff Katusian in Middlesex County invited me to speak to about 70 inmates in the recovery unit at the Billerica House of Correction. And I asked the inmates during the question and answer period, what do you people need when you leave here in 6 months or a year? What do you need? And they weren't trying to be funny. And one man said, a ride. Another man said, a place to stay. Another man said, a job. If we are not providing people with a ride or a place to stay or a job, how do we expect these 70 inmates not to end up back in the Billerica House of Correction at $70,000 a year of the taxpayers' money? One of the most liberating things about running for office in 2018 is that I'm not walking around all day thinking about Donald Trump. I'm really not. I'm thinking about how am I going to communicate and work with the legislature to help reform the funding of education so the quality of a child's education is not determined by the property values of the parents' home. How am I going to help communicate to help create better treatment centers and rehabs so we are treating substance abuse the same way we would treat any other illness? If somebody here today broke their leg, an ambulance would come, take them to the hospital, and provide them with the crutches until they could walk again. We need to create institutional crutches of long-term support for the treatment of opioids and substance abuse so the people who want help can get help and ultimately they can walk again. I'm not thinking about Trump. I'm thinking about how we're going to create a favorable business climate. Apparently, my time is up. I only had about 20 more minutes. Thank you. I would love your support.